This is Conversations on Careers and Professional Life, a podcast from the Foster School of Business, MBA Career Management Office. I'm your host, Gregory Heller. On each episode, I talk with guests from faculty and staff to students, alumni, and business leaders about the skills and strategies that can help you design a professional career that you're happy with. My guest today is Sean Du. Sean is in the Foster MBA class of 2024. Before coming to Foster, he worked in the solar industry on the East Coast, and this past summer, he interned with Starbucks as a sustainability and social impact intern. But the reason I'm having Sean on the podcast today is because of his experience as a ClimateCAP fellow. So ClimateCAP launched a fellowship program last year, and Sean is in the first class of ClimateCAP fellows. Sean Du, welcome to Conversations on Careers and Professional Life.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Gregory. I appreciate it.
So, as I mentioned in that intro, you've been a ClimateCAP fellow for the past couple months. Can you start by telling us a little bit about what ClimateCAP is and what the ClimateCAP fellowship is?
So ClimateCAP is a conference focused in on sustainability with a specific eye for MBAs. So everyone there is in an MBA program or is an alumni of an MBA program of one of the partner schools. And it's usually over 2 days to get everyone together to talk about anything from clean energy to upcycling to clean transportation, anything that might have a business to do with climate change.
So did you attend the ClimateCAP conference last year in 2023?
Yeah, I got the opportunity to attend the conference. It was down in Austin, Texas at the University of Austin, and was probably the highlight of my first year of the MBA program, I would say, in terms of just the type of people you meet, kind of the breadth of knowledge, and the opportunity to just have conversations that are really relevant to the program, but with an eye for sustainability and social impact.
All right, so there's a conference and there's the fellowship. Tell us a little bit about the fellowship, and you're sort of in the middle of the fellowship experience right now.
Yeah, we're kind of wrapping up the last 3 months so it's going to end about mid-December. But the fellowship is put on by Duke, the Fuqua School of Business over there. And really the fellowship this year was a way to launch and basically keep driving community and innovation in this MBA sustainability space. So they selected about a dozen people from schools all across the United States. And throughout the year, we meet usually once or twice a month and connect on a host of different sustainability projects while we're each actually pursuing our own sustainability-related project. A lot of these meetings are to help check in, to meet with speakers, to get feedback on our presentations, really just helping create a cohort and a sense of community in the MBA through the MBAs focused in on, what can we do to help combat climate change?
So before we get too far into what your project is and some of your experiences within the fellowship, what was the application process like? Because applications are open right now. I'm hoping to get this out pretty quickly so that anyone who's considering applying can listen to it. Tell us a little bit about that process.
And so the fellowship criteria for me asked about, what project are you thinking about doing? Why are you looking to pursue that project? And why is that relevant to the MBA program? So really was an application with probably 3 or 4 different writing portions, and then sat with an interview with the people who are helping run the program, Jessica over at the Edge Center at Fuqua.
So do you have to source and identify what your project will be, and then you're using the fellowship as a vehicle to advance that project and get some of the sort of cohort-based support that will help you achieve it? Is that right?
That's a great question. So when you apply, they want an idea of what you're interested in exploring, right? But from my experience, there wasn't anything hard and fast. Like, you didn't have to stick to the exact thing that you laid out in your application. And they were, the first few months were actually going through the process of thinking about what would make the most sense for my project, what form of deliverable would make the most sense for my project. So they do help you along in that process, but they want to see that you're engaged from the start and you're coming in with ideas, you're coming in with a little bit of a path set out to ensure you're serious and you want to focus in on this for the 10-month period that the fellowship is.
Can you tell us a little bit about your project?
Yeah, of course. My project was actually pretty unique compared to a lot of the other ClimateCAP fellows, where I'm in partnership with a private organization, a nonprofit run out of Flagstaff, Arizona, called Native Renewables. And we partnered on this project where they are installing solar-powered refrigeration and freezer units across about 15 different homes in the Hopi and Navajo Nation. So they're doing this project, and I came on to do the data analysis portion of it. And where ClimateCAP came in was really creating the space and creating the network to help amplify the results, whatever they may be, of this project. So it was a really good intersection, and I think, a big part of my motivation of not just having my own standalone project was because there's a lot of this work going on in communities who have been historically disenfranchised. And I think one of the most important roles you can do as a person who is, fighting in this space is to help amplify voices that are not yours, ones that have historically been left out of conversations. So I think that has been, really important to me and really a major driver in why I decided to partner with this organization, use my background in kind of data analysis to help structure an analysis and their data tracking for this project, and hopefully create a really great deliverable in the next few months.
All right. So you were aware of this organization beforehand, reached out to them, and then used it as part of your application process. When you submitted your application, you said, this is basically kind of like the project that I want to work on.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I actually think I did my application before 100% coming in contact with this other organization. Really what I expressed in my application was wanting to do something in clean energy, something with a historically disenfranchised community, and I suggested a few different options on that. And the timing worked out really well that I was just put in contact with Native Renewables in a similar timeline as this application worked out. And really that came from just networking, right? Having conversations with people, getting coffee, following up. And I think, it was really a combination of, kind of preparation and good luck that these two people met, and I was able to kind of form this relationship and these bonds. So was very lucky in that regard.
How has the fellowship helped in fostering your academic development? Like, how is it connected with what you've been studying in the program, maybe with your summer internship, as well as now as you're in this sort of final quarter of the project and returning to school for the fall quarter of your second year? What has been sort of the overlap or connection between the fellowship and your academics?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, at least, the fellowship has helped in really two distinct ways. One, I would say, we're in an MBA program, and a big part of that is network building and community building. So being able to just sit down and have conversations twice a month with someone outside of our network, with professional speakers who are in the sustainability space, bringing different ideas, different concepts forward has been huge. And that community has helped, come up with a few good ideas that I want to implement here on our own campus to help drive that community, help drive that conversation, and help drive that engagement. The second part of my academic career where I think this was really helpful was just opening me up to different hard side of it. For example, my analysis, when I first laid it out, I was able to get a ton of different feedback from the people over at the Edge community this summer, which was really helpful in helping me hone in on, where I should focus and what is the most meaningful thing to my audience. So it helped me think about sustainability and these concepts of, we all know that reducing our greenhouse gas emission is good, but it really helped drive the conversation of connecting that with the individuals I'm going to be interacting with, the people in the Navajo and Hopi Nation. So it helped take a little bit of my academic kind of career, high in the sky thoughts and bring it, to be presentable, relatable, and hopefully more impactful at the end of the day.
So for those who aren't familiar, EDGE is the center at Fuqua, which has birthed the ClimateCAP Fellowship and Conference, has a great online resource at mbaedge.com. And EDGE stands for Energy, Development, and Global Environment. All right. So you have these sessions where they bring in experts. You have a cohort of other fellows who you're running ideas by. Are there any courses or any coursework that you've done at Foster that have been really helpful or instrumental in the work that you're doing on this project?
I think two of the ones that have been the most helpful for here at Foster was our reviewing our statistical analysis class here, because I would say that was been a giant portion of my work, is organizing data to make it so you can analyze it, and then actually going through the process of setting up an analysis, getting results, interpreting those results in relation to the data, and presenting it in a meaningful way. So that was really helpful to have in my back pocket as I was diving into a little bit more of the analysis in the late summer, early fall right now. The second aspect of that I think has been really, really helpful for me on a personal level is the strategy classes here at Foster, actually. Because with that background, it really gave me a better understanding of the dynamics at play when I'm doing this work and this research. Because a lot of this data is pretty confidential, and the message that we're presenting to the world it's very important to frame it in a way that is helpful to the nations that we're serving, has really helped me look at kind of dynamics within this small community that I'm looking in, northern Arizona compared to the rest of the environmental world, and has helped me communicate the high points of data, right? What are the things that people are going to be the most engaged with? So I think being able to go through strategy classes here really helped me see big picture aspects and thematic elements in a much clearer way.
What's been the most transformative or highest impact aspect of the fellowship experience so far?
Yeah, I think the one for me is I actually had the opportunity, because of the fellowship, to go to a conference in Boulder, Colorado this year, to talk to people, one, doing this type of work, discuss our analysis and what we're looking forward to continuing throughout the summer, and really just meet the people who I'm having this conversation and doing this work with on a day-to-day basis. And the reason it was so impactful to me is it really humanizes this thing, especially being remote off this project, of seeing photos, understanding where these people are in this community, and how much something like a solar-powered freezer can benefit them in their lives, right? One individual I'm thinking of, for example, used to have to refrigerate all of their food just in a big chest cooler. So what that involved was basically in the middle of summer going out 2, 3, 4 times a week, buying ice, bring that home, keep all of their fresh foods from spoiling. And this refrigerator basically stopped them from having to drive an additional 20 plus miles a day, which, if you went through the process of calculating value of time, the value of gas, the money they spent buying on ice, take that over the lifetime of a solar project, the lifetime of a battery, that's thousands of dollars in savings, right? So being able to really see that, and seeing, the real intersection that, we can do things more sustainably while also greatly improving people's lives.
It sounds like it has had a huge impact on folks' lives, and the work that you're doing will hopefully show the business case so that programs like this can spread further and wider and help more people.
That's definitely the goal.
So taking a step back, I mentioned that you had a career in solar before coming to business school. Now you've been at business school for a year and a few weeks, and you did your internship at Starbucks. What are some of the other things that you've done to advance your broader career plan in the direction of sustainable business that might be of interest to folks listening to this program?
That's a great question. I think the things that outside of what you already mentioned that have been really important to me is getting plugged into the community here in Seattle. One, I'm a pretty active member in a few of the local Sustainability Hour meetups, which has been really exciting to see, especially over the past 2 weeks, kind of culminated in a P&W Climate Week, which I think is the first one that we've had out here, which is a play on the New York Climate Week, which I think is a little bit bigger and maybe better attended than the one in Seattle. But what that kind of brought with me in this experience of connecting to a new sustainability community in a new city since I've moved out here is realizing how much community in place matters when we're thinking about climate change and this debate. When I was living on the East Coast, I was in Boston specifically. I would say the climate scene was extremely flushed out and defined. Everyone knew who everyone was. There were, a handful of a few organizations who were having the same meetups every week. And there was basically kind of all the components were there to help bring forth innovation, help bring forth people meeting, help bring forth new ideas, right? And when I got out here to Seattle, it was interesting to see that I think that wasn't quite there 100% when compared to other cities. And I think being involved and having these conversations and meeting these peoples and showing up, and hopefully when the fellowship is over, getting a little bit more involved in helping create that space and create that community is actually a huge driver to that industry being successful in this region. So that's been a huge component, and it's also just put me in contact with a bunch of different individuals doing really interesting work in really different areas of sustainability here in Seattle, which I'm super grateful for.
Yeah, so you're referring to Pacific Northwest Climate Week, which took place at the end of September. A lot of great events. There's ongoing, regular climate tech meetups that are happening. And for folks who are interested in finding out more about those, you can visit workonclimate.org and get plugged into the Work on Climate Slack community. I'll put links in the show notes to all these resources so you don't have to pull over and jot this down on a napkin in your car. As we sort of draw to a close here, what advice would you have for any student who's thinking about applying to the ClimateCAP Fellowship?
Probably the most important thing is just being genuine in who you are and what your interests are. The biggest thing I've gathered from meeting all these fellows, meeting with the people at Edge, at Duke, is they don't necessarily care what the topic is. They don't necessarily care how you want to tackle it, but they want to see that you are bringing forth something you are genuinely passionate about and in a way that best suits you and what your skills are. For example, the other projects that, my cohort is doing, someone is doing an app that scans the barcodes on different boxes to see if it's recyclable in your community, which is an amazing thing, all the way over to different ways of financing more blue economy, ocean-based economy products. And I think those are two crazy different things from two extremely different people, but you can tell when you have a conversation with them that they care about it and they want to push it forward. And I think that authenticity and that energy is extremely helpful in just going throughout the process.
And lastly, are there any books, podcasts, websites, newsletters that you have found really helpful to get up to speed or stay up to speed with what's happening in sustainable business while you've been in the program?
I'm a big fan of Bloomberg, one, because it's Bloomberg Green Business. You're probably on that one, just because it's like completely out of my wheelhouse typically. I'm such a solar diehard nerd that like anything about, carbon accounting, ESG, corporate stuff, I think that I can stay up to date on is super helpful for me personally. So love that one. The other one is Canary Media is a big one for me, which I think they do a good job with their newsletters not being too overwhelming, but deliver in a kind of cool, fun, and sleek way. And I would say probably the most cool climate book I've been reading recently. It's an older book called Savages, but it really kind of looks at a lot of the oil rights arguments with the native individuals down in South America. And I think the reason I found this so interesting is we're kind of getting into this space in the clean energy transition where we're not just trying to transition to a clean economy as fast as possible, but we're thinking really thoughtfully about how people are included. And I think this does a really good job of looking at an extreme case of people who have barely had contact with the outside world fighting for land rights, and really pushes us to think about what it means to recognize a group's independence and kind of the sanctity of respecting their decision-making process, no matter what that culture is.
Yeah, that's great. And of course, as I mentioned, we'll put links to all those in the show notes at conversationsoncareers.com. Sean, I want to thank you so much for having this conversation about your experience with the ClimateCAP Fellowship, as well as pursuing a career in the sustainability space at the Foster School of Business.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Gregory. I'm always down to talk clean everything, so it's been really fun.
The ClimateCAP MBA Fellowship application deadline is November 1st, 2023 at 5 p.m. Eastern. There will be one more information session on Tuesday, October 24th at 12 p.m. Eastern. All the information you need to learn about and apply for the ClimateCAP Fellowship can be found on climatecap.org, where you can also learn about the ClimateCAP Summit, which will be taking place on November 9th and 10th at the Michigan Ross School of Business in Ann Arbor, Michigan. If you're considering applying for the ClimateCAP Fellowship, remember Sean's advice. Demonstrate your authentic interest and enthusiasm for the kind of project and kind of impact you want to make through the fellowship. Thank you for listening to Conversations on Careers and Professional Life. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend or classmate. Help others find the show by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Conversations on Careers and Professional Life is produced by me, Gregory Heller, with support from the Foster School of Business, Office of MBA Career Management. Learn more about the show, find show notes and past episodes, and get in touch with me at conversationsoncareers.com.